Emma Whitmore and Daniel Thompson met on a brisk autumn afternoon at a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. Emma, a driven marketing executive with ambitions of climbing the corporate ladder, was all about structure and planning. Daniel, a freelance graphic designer with an eye for detail and a quiet charm, lived life more spontaneously, letting creativity guide him. Their worlds collided when Emma spilled her coffee on his laptop. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry!" Emma gasped, frantically grabbing napkins. Daniel, calm and collected, smiled. "It's okay. It needed an upgrade anyway." That moment turned into a conversation. One conversation led to a date, and soon their lives intertwined in a whirlwind romance that seemed picture-perfect on the surface. Emma was the epitome of success. She had worked tirelessly to rise through the ranks at a prestigious marketing firm. Her days were filled with client meetings, brand pitches, and meticulously planned schedules. Her friends often joked that her planner was more important than her personal life, but beneath the polished exterior was a woman yearning for stability. Having grown up in a fractured home, her parents divorced when she was 10, Emma craved the kind of love that would last. When she met Daniel, she believed she had found it. He was kind, attentive, and supportive of her ambitions. He didn't mind her late nights at the office or her obsession with organization. For Emma, Daniel represented the balance she had been searching for. Someone who could anchor her in a life that often felt like it was spinning out of control. Daniel was Emma's opposite in many ways. While she thrived on structure, he lived for creativity. His freelance career allowed him the freedom to work on projects he was passionate about, often from the comfort of his home studio. But Daniel had secrets. Before Emma, there was Eric Hayes. Eric wasn't just Daniel's best friend, he was his first love. They had met in college, where late-night study sessions turned into something deeper. But their relationship was complicated. Eric was bold, unapologetically himself, while Daniel struggled with the expectations of his conservative family. The weight of societal pressure and fear of rejection led Daniel to end things with Eric, choosing a path that felt safer. When he met Emma, he saw a chance to live the life he believed he should have, one that would make his family proud and silence his internal conflict. But Eric never truly left his life. When Daniel proposed to Emma, it was during a weekend getaway to a cabin in the mountains. The setting was idyllic, a roaring fireplace, snowfall outside, and a diamond ring hidden in her glass of champagne. Seeing Daniel engaged to Emma stirred something inside him, a mix of longing and jealousy. "You're marrying her?" Eric had asked over drinks one evening, his eyes searching Daniel's. Daniel hesitated. "It's the right thing to do." Eric leaned closer. "Is it? Or is it just the safe thing to do?" Those words haunted Daniel. The night before the wedding, Emma stayed at a hotel with her bridesmaids, laughing and drinking champagne, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Daniel and Eric met for what was supposed to be a final goodbye. "I can't do this anymore," Daniel said, his voice shaking. "I have to move on." Eric's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and hurt. "Move on? From what?" "From us." Daniel looked away. "From a life that isn't mine anymore." Eric grabbed his hand, forcing him to meet his gaze. "Daniel, you're lying to yourself. You don't love her the way you love me." Daniel pulled away. "This is my choice, Eric. It's what I have to do." Eric's voice softened. "You don't have to do anything. You're choosing to live a lie." Daniel left that night, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He was about to marry a woman he cared for deeply, but in his heart, he knew he was leaving behind the man he truly loved. Emma lay awake in her hotel room, staring at the ceiling. As much as she wanted to believe everything was perfect, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered doubts. Daniel had been distant lately, distracted. She chalked it up to pre-wedding nerves, but something didn't sit right. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." She smiled, pushing the doubts aside. Tomorrow would be the beginning of their forever. Or so she thought. The wedding day arrived with all the splendor and excitement Emma had planned for months. But beneath the surface of smiles, vows, and toasts, secrets simmered. Emma believed she was marrying the man of her dreams. Daniel believed he was leaving his past behind. And Eric, he wasn't ready to let go. What none of them knew was that by the end of the night, those secrets would explode into violence, leaving 2 dead and 1 missing, and turning a picture-perfect wedding into a nightmare. The wedding day proceeded with a serene facade. Emma beamed in her gown, Daniel stood tall beside her, and Eric played the role of the supportive best man with the practiced smile. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. Emma's eyes shimmered with tears as she spoke her vows. "Daniel, you are my partner, my rock, and my greatest adventure. I promise to love you, to stand by you, and to build a life filled with honesty and trust." Daniel's heart clenched at the word honesty. His gaze shifted for a brief moment, just long enough to meet Eric's eyes across the altar. Eric's expression was unreadable, but his clenched jaws spoke volumes. Daniel swallowed the lump in his throat and recited his vows, the words sounding hollow to his own ears. At the reception, the newlyweds took to the dance floor for their first dance. Guests gathered around, capturing the moment on their phones. Emma rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, swaying to the music. "We did it," she whispered. Daniel forced a smile. "We did." But his eyes betrayed him, searching the crowd until they found Eric, standing in the corner, a glass of champagne in hand. Eric raised his glass in a silent toast, a bitter smile on his lips. As the night wore on, Emma noticed Daniel's growing tension. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and his grip on her hand felt distant. "Daniel, what's wrong?" she asked, creeping into her voice. "Nothing," he replied too quickly. "Just tired." But Emma wasn't convinced. Later, as Daniel slipped away from the reception, Emma followed. She trailed him through the dimly lit corridors of the venue, her heart pounding with a mixture of curiosity. She stopped when she heard voices. Daniel and Eric, their conversation hushed but urgent. "You can't pretend this didn't happen." Daniel, "It can't happen anymore, Eric. I'm married now. Eric, married to someone you don't love. Daniel, I care about her. The husband." Emma's breath caught over her. Her husband, her new husband, in love with his best man, Daniel continued, his voice breaking. "I can't hurt her. She doesn't deserve." Eric's voice softened. "And what about us? Don't we deserve to be happy?" Emma pushed open the door, the sound echoing in the quiet room. Daniel and Eric froze, guilt and shock written across their faces. "Emma," Daniel began, but she cut him off. "Don't," she said, her voice trembling with rage and betrayal. "How long?" Daniel looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "How long?" she repeated, her voice rising. Eric stepped forward. "Emma, this isn't what you think." She laughed bitterly. "It's exactly what I think." Daniel finally spoke. "It started before we got serious." Emma's heart shattered. "And you still married me." "I thought I could make it work. I thought I could be the man you deserved." Tears welled in Emma's eyes. "You lied to me. You let me believe this was real." Eric tried to intervene. "Emma, we never meant to hurt you." Emma's gaze turned cold. "But you did. You both did." The argument escalated. Emma's pain morphed into fury, her hands shaking with adrenaline. "You ruined everything," she spat. "You ruined me." Daniel reached out to her. "Please, Emma, let's talk about this." "But she was past talking." Oh, her eyes landed on a heavy brass candle holder on the table. Without thinking, she grabbed it and swung. The first blow caught Eric off guard, the impact sending him crashing to the floor. Blood pooled around his head, staining the pristine carpet. Daniel screamed. Emma, no." He dropped to his knees beside Eric, shaking him. "Eric, stay with me, please." Emma stood frozen, the candle holders slipping from her hands. Her breathing was ragged, her mind racing. "What did you do?" Daniel whispered, his voice trembling with grief and rage. Daniel's eyes darkened as he rose to his feet. "You killed him," he said, his voice low and dangerous. Emma backed away, her heart pounding. "It was an accident. I didn't mean—" Daniel advanced on her, his hands clenched into fists. "You took the only person I ever truly loved." Emma's back hit the wall. "Daniel, please." His face twisted with grief and fury. "You don't get to plead. You don't get to walk away from this." In a fit of rage and heartbreak, Daniel grabbed Emma by the wrist, dragging her toward the balcony. "No!" she screamed, struggling against his grip. But he was stronger, fueled by a pain that consumed him. The struggle reached its peak as they reached the edge of the balcony. Below them, the courtyard loomed, silent and cold. "Daniel, don't do this," Emma begged, tears streaming down her face. He looked at her, his eyes filled with a haunting emptiness. "You took everything from me." With one final push, her body hit the ground with a sickening crack. Daniel stood on the balcony staring down at the lifeless form of his wife, the woman he had married, the woman he had betrayed, the woman he had killed. The next morning, the wedding venue was a crime scene. 2 bodies were found, Emma Thompson and Eric Hayes. Daniel Thompson was gone. Some say he fled out of guilt, disappearing into the shadows. Others believe he met the same fate, consumed by his own despair. The truth remains a mystery, a chilling reminder that love, betrayal, and secrets can turn even the happiest day into a nightmare.